How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the $100 million AI Business Growth Workflow Workshop. Great to see you all here today with us live. And if you're watching the recording, great to see you as well. Today, we got a 2-hour workshop. We're going to be getting hands-on with this workflow based off of a few different recipes we've created in the past. And the two main ones are the $100 million leads and $100 million offers workflow from Alex Ramosi. So I'm excited to walk you guys through how to execute these for yourself and make sure you guys have all of these resources so that you can go ahead and implement. And we'll have plenty of time here as well to take care of your questions and make sure you guys are all following along and on track. And we'll have a few minutes here just to make sure everyone can jump in the room, and then we'll kick things off with a demo of the workflow in action, and then we'll be breaking things down step by step as well. So great to see you guys here today, Rick and Ron. Good to see you, Derek and Nate, Julie, Mark, Rachel. Rachel will be helping moderate inside of the comments. So if you guys have questions throughout here, let us know in the chat as they come up, and we'll do our best to get to them in a timely fashion. Good to see you, BJ. All right, guys. Happy Thursday, August 12th. Misty morning here in Austin, Texas. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Where are you guys from tuning in with us live today? I want to make sure you guys all know the chat is open and available here for comments back and forth. Las Cruces, New Mexico, cloudy Dallas. All right, cool. We got a few more people coming in the waiting room. We'll give it a few more minutes. We'll rock and roll. Reading UK, Boise, Idaho. All right, all over the place. San Antonio, Rick. Santa Rosa. All right. Con Street Cafe. Haven't been there in Austin, Ron, but I'll need to check it out.
Yeah, I want to go. We should go next week.
Mark tuning in from Orlando. Well, that's great, guys. Well, I'd like to get a little bit of a idea where you guys are at here in terms of this workshop. If you want to let me know, what is your number one goal to walk away from here? Is it to create this workflow and use it for your own business? Is it to do that as well as for clients' businesses? Maybe just give me a little bit about what you're looking to, what business or product or service you're going to be looking to implement right away with what we're going to be demonstrating here and walking you guys through today. And if you also don't have access to the content, I will be walking through where you guys should all have access to these workflows. We'll be all set. Give it just another minute, and then we will kick things off. Cool, Ron. Highly experienced with prompt engineering. Want to see how the workflow works. We use this with clients. It's great. Mark, both use cases for clients as well as your business. Derek, creating my own business, creating for my own business with this workflow. Yeah, workflow, ads, emails. That's great. My own business from Mark. Create something to start up my own business. All right. For clients. All right. Ghostwriting books and thought leadership. See how this might apply. Then to clients for your own business. All right. Well, that's great, guys. Well, again, I'm going to start this off with just a quick overview, short presentation, just kind of lay the land as what we're going to be getting into. And then I'm going to walk through the execution of this workflow, and then we'll break it down kind of step by step inside of there with where each piece can work just on their own, as well as together in this workflow. So without further ado, go ahead and share my screen. And yes, this content will be recorded, and the recordings will be available in the library, as well as some folks on here did get a ticket just to this workshop. And so you guys will have access to that as well with inside the playbook. Cool. Jump on in. Just give me a quick thumbs up that you guys can see my screen. Unlocking business growth with AI. All right, sounds good. All right, let's dive in, guys. So welcome to the $100 million AI business growth workflow workshop. In this workshop, we're going to be walking through leveraging AI and how to implement this workflow and the strategies inside to drive marketing and sales efforts to grow your business. This workshop is for if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, or a service provider, bloggers, authors, creators, and teams, really anyone that needs a solid marketing roadmap to implement themselves or have your team implement with the ideas and the content that we're going to be creating. So if you fall into any one of these categories, I'm sure you'll find some use case with you inside of your own business. What we're going to be covering here today is going through the buyer's brief to the $100 million offer, to a creative brief, style guide, $100 million leads, and then go-to-market ads, and topping it off with an affiliate program workflow that just breaks down some of the core components of setting up an affiliate program once you got all of these other pieces locked in place. Reasons for attending this workshop: one, accelerating your growth. So getting the contents from books like Alex Ramos's $100 million offers and $100 million leads, and implementing the frameworks within those books to put these strategies into action and ultimately work for your business faster. And through this workshop, you'll gain an advantage of implementing a workflow, leveraging AI that most likely your competition is not doing what we're going to be demonstrating here right now. So take that and run with it and stay ahead of the competition. And hopefully throughout this workshop, you'll see new areas of opportunity, maybe new insights, new ways to attract and engage your target audience, ideas that you might have not considered beforehand, or just new opportunities for growth and other ways that you can leverage AI inside of your business. So throughout the span of this workshop, going to be covering it about 2 hours. We're going to be going through it first and foremost with a demonstration with a company that we've just selected as a case study to walk through this workflow, and then we'll be taking questions and breaking down each individual section as to when and where you could run that workflow specifically. Again, there are about 7 parts inside of this workflow, so while you can run all of them in tandem, don't necessarily need to run every single one every single time. And so we'll walk through the implementation of the workflows inside of these strategies. And through this process, I'd love you guys to be hands-on during it, but also keep in mind, we've got the recordings available for you so you can come back and watch through, and I'll be breaking down all of the notes and providing an executive summary with different insights and takeaways that you guys can quickly reference, the transcript and things of that nature, for again, reference material to put things into action faster. All right. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. And the first place I want to dive in is inside of the community to make sure you guys have access to where this workshop is going to be hosted at. So if you just purchased a ticket to the community, once this workshop recording that we're doing right now live is done, it will be uploaded here inside of the AI integration playbook inside of our community, the $100 million AI business growth workshop. And we've got a 20-minute demo here of walking through, and then the next parts of the resources will be inserted down here, so you guys can just quickly access that on demand whenever. And if you're part of the AI growth library, where this ticket was complimentary to your workshop, then it'll be inside of the marketing workflows section of the library. And again, where additional workflows and such are hosted. So how you can access the workflow right now, and I'm going to share this link with you here on the live to make sure that everybody here has access to this Google document. We're going to be walking through each section of this workflow, starting with section 1 of the buyer's brief, which you can copy and paste right here. And alternatively, you can grab that Google document I just shared, and is linked at the top of this for opening and copying and making modifications yourself, because you might find some areas that you want to improve and expand on, and that's totally fine. With the $100 million offer, which we'll be covering, We've got the creator brief, the brand style guide, $100 million leads workflow, the go-to-market ads, and then we'll wrap things up with that affiliate program creator brief. So all that said, the two tools that we will need and be demonstrating within this workshop are going to be Claude.ai, which you can see right here. So this is Claude. And I understand that in some parts of the world, Claude's not necessarily available just yet. So as one workaround with that, if Claude's not available in your country, one I've heard of people using is by a VPN in a country like the US, or I believe Canada and the UK have access to it, or through a platform like Poe.com, which may have some limitation, but Poe allows you to access Claude. And the reason I like Claude for this workflow is because it can add a lot, it can take a lot of different, a lot of context inside of its token window, which means that it can stay on track and in line with the directions that we're going to be going. But if you have access to Claude, this is going to be the primary demonstration that I'll be walking through today. Alternatively, you can run all of these workflows, sometimes in sequence, but definitely individually within Chat GPT. And I recommend GPT-4 because it is much more powerful than GPT 3.5. At minimum, you're going to want to have access to OpenAI, and you could run everything here within the free version. GPT-4 is going to be a bit more powerful, and I'll be demonstrating how this workflow works in action. And then we'll be taking some questions and demonstrations throughout here. Okay. I'll make sure we got everyone in from the seats. Before I get started, any questions before we dive into the first round of demonstrating this workflow and going straight from the top down, and then we'll be working backwards from there. All right. So to start this workflow, while we're building up to our $100 million offer and our $100 million leads, one of the number one things that I recommend everyone starting with getting into AI, and a lot of you that have been around the space and are familiar with prompt engineering and working with tools like Claude, ChatGPT, Jasper, is that context and frameworks are really critical to getting the desired outcomes that you want from these tools. And when I'm talking about context, I'm simply talking about the information that we're feeding it as a reference source. So if you want ChatGPT to know that you're talking about a product and a type of customer and a market, you want to tell it that this is what I'm going to be talking about first and foremost before you just start running a bunch of prompts, because it won't have any direction as to where you're going to be going. And so with that in mind, as I've been running this workflow, I've found it in my experience, and you may, as you're working through this workflow, find it's not always necessary to start with the buyer's brief, but the buyer's brief is a great stack of prompts that can really dig into who you're going to be talking to in your marketing message, and compared to like the niche that you're going to be marketing in, and how, like, what's driving them to purchase and buy. And so I'm starting with the buyer's brief in this case because I want to prime the AI with a lot of information and context about who I'm going to be serving. And we're going to be using a real company for this and analyzing their target market and otherwise. And then I'm going to be taking that buyer's brief as the context that I've created with AI, and then moving into the $100 million offer, which will give me ideas for ways that I can improve and expand on the offer that I'm creating and servicing that market with. So that being said, the company that I am going to be demonstrating on is a company I found on LinkedIn. I think this might be relevant for those of you that are marketers and those of you that have clients that you're doing marketing for. Is this company called AI Base is searching for a head of growth, looking for a salary between 120 to 140K a year, and basically giving a breakdown of like the responsibilities as you would inside of a job posting. But what I think is interesting, and why I think this would be an interesting case study for us to kick things off here with, is when you go to their website, they are obviously targeting, and in this case, it's a dev environment to prototype, deploy, and monetize real world data and science projects. And so what I'm going to be demonstrating is how to take the information that we've already got on this website and create an entire roadmap for identifying and going deeper on the customers, to expanding on their offer and providing more insights and how to really solidify and make a solid offer using the $100 million offers framework, and then tying it in with a creative brief to then building the $100 million leads roadmap and ads and affiliate assets on top of that. So that if you wanted to go and pitch a job presentation or a resume and deliver this to them, probably blow their socks off. But you probably got clients right now who could benefit from having all of these assets and resources. And so this could be a really great value add to bring in as a complementary product or service for your existing business and that of your clients. And so one example of how me inside of this workflow, I'm going to kick things off here, is I'm simply going to copy the contents of some of their homepage. And inside of Claude, I'll be tabbing back and forth between a few of these programs. So I'll be talking through where I'm going to be tabbing at this time, but I'm only going to be using a handful of these tabs and try to keep it as minimal as possible to not just bounce around. When I'm submitting anything for like a website or a context or like content, I want to start with this context equals so that I can start to map where Claude is going to be taking these different reference points from, pasting the information from the website and making sure that I've got everything that's relevant. What can you build? So featured projects. So basically kind of like this platform that revolutionizes your entire AI development process from idea to monetization. Pretty cool tool. I'm going to add that in right here. And then anytime I'm giving a command, as you'll see us running a lot of commands inside of this workflow, I'm going to indicate that with, I'm going to make sure my highlighter is working so you guys can see where my cursor is. There we go. Context. And this is where I'm going to indicate a command is going to be executed. And so analyze context. Company is AI Base. I'm simply going to start with analyze context. I want to use the word analyze here to instruct Claude, in this case, to kind of take the information I've given it and make sure that it understands what we're going to be creating here. So it starts with a few key points I've gathered. AI Base is a company that offers AI development platforms. Some of the main features include a notebook environment for prototyping and training ML models, collaboration features like sharing projects and deployment across teams, ability to deploy models, deep space marketplace to publish and sell AI projects and models. And so it's aiming to provide an end-to-end platform that takes AI projects to ideation, deployment, and monetization. So basically give me like a little summary here. And this is the start of our initial content brief that we can take. And now we can go much deeper on that we're starting to prime the AI with additional layers of content. And so now that I've started focusing in with Claude on where I'm wanting to go, I'm going to tab back over to my content brief. And I'm going from the top down here to just stay organized and build on the process as I continue going. So I'm going to paste the content brief here. Product service equals, avatar segment equals, niche market equals, and context equals. And I'm going to start again with the command signal. Fill out content brief variables. And these are what we would call variables when talking to AI, and points of reference to where we can fill the information in once and it can reference it again and again. So we see here, here's what I can gather: AI development platform, target, data scientists, machine learning engineers, niche, AI model development and deployment, and then context provides end-to-end platform, collaborating, building, deploying, and selling AI models. Key features include, model deployment marketplace. So, it's asking for a little bit more information right here, but this is pretty much what I want to have, with just a little bit slight more modification. And I'm going to demonstrate this once or twice right here within Claude. Is the same way you operate inside of ChatGPT. Is if at first you don't succeed, try again. And sometimes Claude doesn't necessarily give me the right answer, even though I know I've given it a lot of this initial context. And so if I want to just have it retry it and otherwise context, key features, let me know if we want to expand. Okay, that's totally fine. Product or service is an AI development platform. Frankly, I'm not really worried about the name of the company right here, or trying to push necessarily any specific features beyond just knowing this basic contact information, because the goal of the buyer's brief, which I'm going to run now, is primarily focused on this. This is all the information I really need to seed it. And the more concise you can get with it, the better, for any type of content brief like this. So, and then we can kind of build and expand on there. But if you can get to this type of context, around 30, 35, 40 words or so, and an avatar and a niche, and 3 to 5 words each, then you're going to be in good shape for pointing it in the right direction and then modifying it if it's off track. But based on what I've seen on their website, this seems to be their target market and what they're creating. And so once I've assessed the situation, I'm going to start with section 1, buyer's brief. So from here, you'll notice we've got start here, part 1, buyer's brief. And now comes the prompt of act like a world-class marketer and customer researcher, going into the market segments, product, and the context, analyzing the segments. And so all of this that you guys have access to are just a series of prompts chained together, call that command stacking. And this command is going to indicate that you would simply highlight part 1, copy it, and then paste it over here. So now, let me see. Claude's not wanting to play nice with the information. I've already provided it. So all I need to do right now is pick up here. And I think the reason why Claude didn't analyze it was because I didn't actually write content brief equals. And so what I'm going to do very quickly is copy and paste that. And then repaste the buyer's brief command. with that content in mind. So now we're starting off and at least going on the right track. Data scientists and machine learning engineers, immense pressure to rapidly prototype, iterate, and deploy high-quality AI models. However, the struggle, makeshift process, and poor development. So you can see, and I'm not going to read everything off as it's saying it, but what I want to be making sure of is that I'm starting on track with how the recipe is supposed to be executed, or the workflow in this case, the first section of it. And so it's taking the information I've given it, and within the Anthropic AI model that Claude is built on, it has a lot of research already built into it, and it understands a lot of different context. And so now it's going into things like, what is the primary goal? Accelerating the development and deployment of high quality AI models. What are the primary complaints? Long model iteration cycles, right? So all of these things, while like it's great to say, okay, this is cool, if you look at it from a few different lenses, it could have different levels of value to you and your business. If you're a content marketer, you say, oh, like maybe I should write a blog post about this. Or if I'm looking to write an ad, maybe this is the number one pain point that I'm trying to highlight in said ad, right? And so like just getting these different pieces of information about a market and a segment of that market is the value in this specific section of the recipe. And what this is going to do is this is creating an extended content brief that will inform the $100 million offer that we run. And so we can see as we go down here, reduce time, enable seamless sharing, dreams being recognized as an AI trailblazer, having a frictionless model development environment, moving to objections. It's like yet another tool we have to learn. I think we can all resonate with that right now in the world of AI is, wow, yet another tool that I need to figure out and learn how to use in my business. If you're just a marketer, there's no shortage of AI tools. And from a developer side, I'm sure that they're struggling with this as well, which is where AI base is going to be a solution that helps them have it all in one platform seamlessly. So you got negative feelings, ultimate fears, promises, mistaken beliefs. And then we get down to things like expensive alternatives. And so like, what are some other ways that, might be like way more expensive solutions out there that you could pit yourself against, and throw stones at the competition, offer benefits, right? So setting the frame for what we want to build off. And so as I'm looking at this, and again, this is my first time running this brief, but from my understanding of the space, just from what we do at Gen AI University and what I've seen from the website, I could see this making sense. And, at the very least, this has given me something to build off and iterate with. If I were to present it to the founder or CEO or CMO or CTO or somebody that is a decision maker at this company, wouldn't it be useful to have this type of information on hand so you can make more informed decisions with the insights that we're coming to? And if it's totally off the mark, then you simply just hit retry. I would try it a few times if it was being a little difficult. And if it was really kind of off track, the first thing I would go back to is I would not move on to the $100 million offer section of this workflow. I would move back up to figuring out where am I off base? And more than likely, I'm going to be off base with my content brief. So if this context is out of line, the rest of the context that you're going to be generating is going to not be going on the same track that you would like. And so always come back to that content brief in the context that you provided it as the source. And then we want to build on things from there, which is why, while you could run multiple sections of this recipe at once, I would highly recommend starting with just one section at a time until you've really dialed in your content brief. And taking the information from here, you could start to run them several times, combine different sections together, cut things out that aren't true, include things that you hadn't considered that end up being true. And then once we have section 1 complete, you move right on down to section 2, which is the $100 million offer. Now, the great thing about the $100 million offer is we can copy and paste just like we did above. And again, I would recommend going through Alex Hormozi's $100 million offers book. In going through this, it's an easy read to go through, and then the time is in implementing what he talks about inside of the book. And so this breaks down each of the different sections from the book, and we've done it in such a way that it's a simple matter of executing part 1 through part 11 of the sections. And so what I want to do, just to make sure that we're all on track, is copy and paste that section now back into Claude. And because I've already set up my avatar and my niche, usually how this workflow goes, and I say usually because sometimes AI just AIs and it goes off the rails and it doesn't work the way that it had been when I'm testing it. But usually, because we've already set those variables up, it's going to be referencing all of that context above, and it's going to keep going down that track. And so you should be able to simply copy and paste section 2 of the recipe if it doesn't have the context or isn't quite mapping it like it's doing right here. All I'm going to want to do is go back up and kind of reprime it with that content brief that I've given it. Again, kind of like we did before, and it seems that's the way that Claude is going to be operating today. But, again, fear not. We're just kind of recentering its focus at this point. And we can do that right here with a content brief. Oops, let me do this. And then I'm going to copy and paste. Paste that in, and you notice sometimes with Claude, when you paste it, it doesn't always, I don't think in ChatGPT right now, it'll paste the entire, section or recipe or workflow. But in this case, now it's taking into the content brief example and starting with part 1 of the $100 million offers. So starting with the target market, right market and niche, pain points, desire for greater efficiency, speed, and impact from AI efforts, need for purpose-built solutions versus makeshift tools, all good stuff. And then we get down into, picking a niche and giving, again, an iterative process and going down this. Sometimes the first route, in some cases, doesn't follow it to a T on like it is right now in each part. This part of the workflow is designed to kind of go top down, create your offer components, problems blocking. This include workflow fragmentation. So it's using a lot of that language that we've developed in our buyer's blueprint. And now it's combining that within this $100 million offer framework to help us with organizing all of this content in a way that's very easy for us to read, for us to consume and understand. How can we take this and how can we maybe run with it and create an even more stellar offer? Right. And so now we're talking about the magic headline formulas, Notebook 360, Model Accelerator. Maybe they have some of these products or maybe they don't. This would be where I would want to go back and forth within their website and get a deeper understanding of everything they had to offer to see does it make sense for me to add in additional information or context on that front. But maybe I hadn't considered a rapid deployment toolkit as something that would be useful for this offer. But maybe that would be a perfect inclusion that would help make this an even easier yes for this target market. And so taking the insights and the ahas where I find them, and not everything in here has to be the source of truth necessarily, because again, AI is great at a lot of things and speeding things up, but it always helps to have a level of competency and expertise on a particular piece of subject matter to be able to vet through and make better decisions based on the information that we're provided. So if I wanted to run this again, it's a simple matter of clicking retry and having it run. And then I could provide it some additional information and context if it made sense at that point. And sometimes if you run this recipe a few times, it potentially structure some things a little bit differently in terms of how it outputs. But for the most part, you're going to get the same structure because, as we mentioned earlier in this demonstration, AI is really great at following frameworks. And so like a better framework and a better series of instructions and prompts that you are delivering in advance and pre-prompting it to follow along with those instructions, the better chances you have whenever you go to execute any set of prompts that it's going to follow that framework, and then you're kind of putting bumper lanes on where you want it to go. Otherwise, it could start, going just off the tracks and completely down a different path. And so you can see we're getting to the trim and stack, urgency, and down to the magic headline formulas. And so, again, going through this section of the workflow, you're going to want to go through and analyze each one of these sections as it relates to your offer or a client's offer, right? Do these bonuses make sense in alignment with that offer? And just because you didn't get it 100% perfect on the first round, like the last thing, especially on the offer creation side of things, is like, it's not going to be a one and done thing. You're going to constantly want to be iterating on this and coming back to it with more information. And maybe some of these bonuses will take time to create. Well, is there ways that you could leverage AI to help create and accelerate the bonus creation? And the more that you add these different bonuses and these different components of your offer, is it going to make your offer much more valuable to the end user and lead back to, more sales, more and better efforts from what you're doing on the marketing front? If it is, then keep improving and iterating. And rather than taking hours to go through one of these workflows, or if, however long it would take an average person without AI I know this was an area that I would get incredibly stuck going through Alex's book to try and execute all of this stuff on my own. Well, now it's a simple matter of clicking retry, modifying the content brief, and kind of building on it from there as we go on. So I'm going to pause here real quick. I see there's a question in the crowd before we move on. See what you say, Julie. You said that in filling out the content brief that shorter is better. Every couple of years in the quilting industry, a big survey is taken that identifies who quilters are: age, gender, skill level, household income, amount spent of quilting, how many sewing machines, etc. I could put that in through the AI to summarize, but it's going to be longer than a few words. Would that hurt the output, given it so much more avatar information? That is a great question. And I recommend starting more condensed because it's easy to get very say what you could say in a few words and a lot more words than necessary. And so in starting with these content briefs, as we see right here, I recommend everyone start with trying to be as condensed as you can. But when you have different things like age, household, skill level, those things, that's where, as you get more and more information, you can start to expand on your content brief. And as we'll see as we get further down in this workflow, there's some larger content briefs that include more of these different variables that I would say that absolutely the more information and relevant context that you're getting, the more, and making sure you're being concise and clean with how you're setting it up, is that it's going to be, it's going to help you improve your outputs as long as that research is in line with what you're looking. So, see another question here from Ron. Used a similar workflow in ChatGPT. However, rather than using one business as an example, I uploaded multiple competitors who target the same ideal client. It seems to give a more robust output. So Ron, just to clarify what you're saying, that you're uploading competitor information and like additional research on that line. If you want to come off of mute, I'm happy to, if you want to just expand a little bit more on that.
Yeah. Hi, Darby.
Hey.
Yeah, I find usually 3 or 4 businesses that are targeting the same client avatar. And then I either use their descriptive web page or I save their HTML. I use their web page as save it as a PDF without graphics. And then you can use built into ChatGPT-4 is Web Pilot. And so you can upload up to 100 megabytes of PDF as long as it's not complicated PDF. Mm-hmm. And that'll be incorporated then in the data model.
Yeah, no, that's a great insight. And I think like that approach to it makes a lot of sense in analyzing other competitors. And so I would definitely wouldn't like say that there's anything wrong with taking that approach, and providing that kind of information will help with informing like the content brief creation.
And I haven't used Claude. I've heard good things. Can you comment on the difference between the two if you get a chance later?
Yeah, and I think it's relevant to what you just said about having an additional 100 or so megabytes of information and context that you can provide. If I were to, and again, using different ChatGPT plugins right now, like there's a growing marketplace for being able to plug in different use cases that, super valuable. And especially with how you're describing that in Claude, you can upload up to 5 different files at 10 megabytes each. PDF, TXT, CSV. And so you could take a lot of different competitor information and research and analysis and market data, and you could then upload those files in this thread and have Claude reference that in line with what it's creating. So maybe a different approach to like it still being able to reference a lot more context rather than like a much more narrow window. And so that's how I would approach it right now inside of Claude, the way that you described. Any more questions before we move on? Obviously, Bruce has a comment regarding back to the content briefs being a little bit shorter because the LLM algorithms are attention-based. If there's too many words, they don't know what to pay attention to. Fewer words equal more focus and attention. Yeah, Bruce, I see your hand is raised. You want to come on and elaborate a little bit further?
Yeah, and I was going to play off what Ron said, but yeah, they are attention based. And so it would just be, if you think about it, you hire a brand new assistant and you come in and then you just blabber everything about your business in one great big long conversation, and they don't know where to start, versus giving them something very focused to start with. So when the LLMs are parsing out your request, they have to decide what is the important things to pay attention to and which ones are not the important things to pay attention to. And so that's why Darby's condensed content brief, if you get the right words, helps keep it on track, because it knows what to pay attention to and will spend less time going off. But I was also going to say is, I believe this, this recipe you've put together is really more of an ideation one rather than a competitive analysis one. And I think, Ron, your competitive analysis one is a great thing to do, and then compare the two and make sure that the ideas that are coming out of this $100 million market thing match with what you're seeing with competitors, and then maybe iterate back and forth to get better and better. So I wouldn't try to do those two things at the same time. I would do them separately and then compare them and iterate, is just my thinking on it so far.
Yeah, may I comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's real good point of view, Bruce. When I do that, I really do try to. I'm an I used to be a manager of competitive analysis for TI, and so when I upload 2 or 3 people, I try to make sure that they are exactly targeting. So you are quite right about don't diffuse your model, don't get fuzzy. And another thing that you can do is, I've developed a workflow kind of like this. Rather than content, you can use consulting frameworks like SWOT, a strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. And you can actually use the AI to go out and do a competitive analysis. And I wouldn't say it's great, but it reduces 3 days of work down to a few hours, and then you can use your brain to clean it up. So that's a good combination.
Yeah, great insights, guys. Thank you for that. And yeah, a lot of good ideas coming out of this as well. And so appreciate you guys commenting and being here with us to move through the workshop. I'm going to move on to part 3 now so we can get through the rest. And as things come up, make sure to drop them inside of the comment box so that we can make sure we're just covering and covering everything that needs to get covered here throughout this this workshop. And even just with what we've covered so far, I could see a few other demos that we can jump into with some different use cases here. So this is great stuff. Moving on to the next section, section 3. So once we've gone through that buyer's brief and the $100 million offer, I've included the section 3 here of a creator brief to kind of boil down and organize what we've created above and be a little bit more distilled. And I use this process and inside of the context for taking a lot of information about a campaign and then just trying to get it focused to the point where I can hand this off to anybody on my team or anybody that I'm working on as like an agency or a designer or something along those lines to have a roadmap and a plan for what we're looking to actually accomplish here. And so this creative brief is really more of a taking what we've already created and want to do from like a marketing plan, and like assume you've already got your $100 million offer, assume you've already got your market research and you've done this, and now you need to be able to say to somebody who's like, what the heck is a machine learning development platform, right? Like, and again, we got Claude coming through and saying like, what are you talking about for the product or service? And so I'm just going to go ahead and reposition it again, like we did before. As we move down this context, let's see here. So now we're getting what all of the words that we said above down to like, what is ultimately the promise that we're here? Promise 10x faster development, seamless deployment of AI models. The problem. Okay, data scientists face extremely long model iteration cycles and struggle to deploy it. And if you're going down top to bottom here, if someone were to read this, like have a pretty good idea what your promise is to your end user, what's the problem you're solving, how are you a solution, and then what are the different audience segments here? So we started with data scientists, then we got machine learning, and then we got engineering leaders. And there's probably 10 more segments that we could target with this. But to give me kind of that top down idea at a very, very quickly, a one pager kind of overview. Okay, this is what this company does. This is the promise that they're creating. And again, like with really any AI content, like this isn't necessarily going to be 100% right out the box, but like you were saying, Ron, about taking 3 days worth of work and you can do it in a matter of hours. You could put that brain power elsewhere. Where are we going to be like spending the time to modify this and iterate and say like, oh, is that really who we want to be targeting here? Or maybe I want to feed it a little bit more context, just like we've done with the previous sections. We're just moving down like systematically here through each spot to then just get all of the assets that we would need inside of a marketing campaign here that is ultimately designed to help us with selling more products. And so the next section is section 4. I don't think I actually copied and pasted section 1, 2, and 3 like when I was running the initial other commands. So I'm just going to ignore those right now because that might confuse AI. If I tell it to look here for something and it doesn't find it, it might just spaz out on me. But in this case, and you probably only need to do this once, unless like your brand values and like content guidelines and you're rebranding and changing your logo, or otherwise product or service. So again, I guess usually Claude's a little bit better at referencing this stuff. beforehand. And so I'm just refocusing it through this next time. Going to add the context above. Post that again. I'm going to say reference the creative brief. Above. And then we'll just copy and paste that recipe again. And especially if you're going to be handing this off to like a design agency or a freelancer that's going to be executing any kind of creative work. Again, like if you don't have this and you want like an ideation of like how, like, what should your font be? I'm making this brand from scratch. Like, give me some ideas about what this could look like. It'll give you that content here. But assuming you've already got your colors picked out, you've already got a logo and things of that nature, then I would just replace this stuff. But I would definitely recommend, especially as someone who has ran a creative agency in the past, that having just a document like this that you can just hand to a designer is going to save you a lot of headache and trying to explain like, no, my color scheme is this, or like, no, this is that, right? They just give them the roadmap and the content that they need to be able to like take it and go and execute it and do a better first round, like measure twice, cut once. This will help with that. And brand personality, type, tone of voice. This is stuff, again, like if this is not how I want my brand to be portrayed, again, I'm not just, oh, I guess Claude told me that this is how I need to talk, so this is how I'm going to talk for the rest of my life. No, like, okay, is this how I want to be talking in the term of my brand voice if I am AI based, right? Modify your brand tone, and that's something that you're going to want to just have whenever you're going through chat GPT, through Claude. If you're using a platform like Jasper, you can bake in your own brand voices. But this is going to help with just refining the outputs that ultimately the AI is going to be helping you with producing. And so short recipe there, but definitely effective if you don't have a creative brief or a style guide that you can use as a source of truth for anyone on your design side or executing creative campaign. Now moving on to section 5, the $100 million leads workflow. So what we're going to be doing here, and what we notice, is $100 million leads workflow, content brief. I didn't fill any of these out intentionally because this is, again, at this stage of the workflow, if I'm ready to go out and start to market this, and I need to give it a lot of information and context. And so looking at this, like, business name, what's the name of your business? What's your offer? Describe your offer, right? We have a lot of this content already above. And so for this demonstration, I'm just going to have Claude fill this out for me and do it. But if you don't know your resources or like the platforms that you want to be marketing on, or like the key metrics that you'd want to be tracking, again, like in line with the $100 million leads work book, like that's where these variables are coming from, and how you're going to be distributing your content and creating that roadmap for getting and driving more leads for your business. And so if I want to, for this offer based on sections 1 through 4 above, I'm going to go back into Claude and just create a more robust content brief, because when you're talking about actually executing a full-fledged marketing campaign, like, it's going to help to know that your audience is hanging out on LinkedIn, or if they're just chilling on Pinterest, right? Like, you know, if you're targeting CEO executives, they're probably not hanging out on Pinterest boards all day. And like, if you're targeting, like, you know, artists, or if you're like, quilting is probably more popular to find people on platforms like Pinterest or maybe TikTok channels. Again, it all depends on your what am I going to do here? On your market and where you're going to be meeting people at to help them with solving the problem that your brand ultimately is helping them solve. So I'm going to say content brief here, AI base, and then the command down here for executing it, offer based on sections above, offer, create a brief. And I'm doing this just to fill out these different variables and get an example for what we could build off. But again, if your budget is bootstrapped. I've got $20 to spend this week on tacos and my fingers DMing people. It's gonna be different than someone that just got funded $1 million in the round. And they're ready to start pumping some money behind ads. And so here we're again, like, it's a more expanded content brief. And so we're giving it more information that we're going to be needing to feed this particular section of the workflow. So like goals, we hope to drive $10 million in revenue recurring within 3 years. Like if this isn't true, then like let's adjust that for what we're looking to execute this recipe with. So you would then kind of refocus and spend your time just, filling out these different variables. And, again, you have all these variables now in line with what we're going to be executing on a leads campaign. And now we're going into this, one of our newer iterations of a command stack, following our auto scripting workflow process to assist with executing all of the different commands and the prompts we've developed within the workflow. And so I'm going to copy this section, paste it here. Say content brief, and fingers crossed Claude follows the direction on this first go. It just says I literally could have saved years off my life if I had this years ago. Let's see. So I think I've given Claude enough information here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click retry again. Someone's saying that Claude's being a little feisty today in the comments. Yeah, he definitely is. Again, AI is going to AI, and sometimes you just have to work with how you instruct it and making sure that it executes those prompts. And so let me see. All right, so what I'm going to do here then, kind of like we've had to do beforehand. Again, if you're doing this in ChatGPT, you're probably still going to need to do the same type of workflow because of, again, like recentering the scope of its window. Sometimes, again, like Claude's window is about 100,000 tokens, which is something like 55,000 words. It's reading through this entire thread, but it's sometimes like today, it's just like having a bad Claude day, I guess. And it's got some issues with my instruction. And so I'm just taking back that content brief, and each one of these sections can be ran totally individually on their own. We're just running them in sequence inside of this thread. Let's move things down. So lead magnets. Okay, so here we go. We got lead magnets. So to attract data science leaders at mid to large enterprises, AI-based could offer the following lead magnets: benchmarking analysis of current models, calculator to estimate productivity, checklist to assessing collaboration readiness across data teams. And so it's moving down top to bottom inside of this workflow. So helping us with ideating an outreach message, trust building messaging, follow-up sequence. And again, all these things are stuff that we can take and then go and expand and iterate off of. Ron says, like talking to a 16 or 17-year-old or your puppy. Sometimes you have to rinse and repeat and restate, and then do you understand? It is a good point with these tools, and like Claude is getting in that conversation of like, this is what I want you to do. Like, do you understand what I'm telling you to do here, and getting it in that state? Again, like depending on how the workflow is going, can be very effective for getting it like right on the track of where you want it to be going. And again, like it's not always going to execute the entire thing top down. Often it does, but again, I think we're seeing a rainy day here in terms of where Claude is going with this particular execution. Let's see if it completes the entire flow at this point. Because again, like we've said with all of these individualized recipes above, is like you can run them in one go, but like keep in mind, you can also go in to very specific prompts inside of the recipes and just use those. If you've got a recipe or a workflow that you're already using and find some elements of what you have access to here helpful for you, kind of like building with Legos, you can plug and play them where they make the most sense. I am on a paid model of Claude, so you have a free version of Claude that I think gives you about 20 or 25 use cases. There's a question from Julie. I think the Pro, I believe, is like $20 a month, and I've also got access to their API as well, which I don't know if it does anything special when I'm using this thread, but if you guys want access to their API, just reach out to sales@anthropic.com or .ai and check in with them about that. If you're looking to build your own AI applications, handy to have Claude in your back pocket. As you can see here, Claude is helping with us starting to expand on those different sections of the $100 million leads workshop. So again, depending on where you're at in your business, at what stage in the lead generation and scaling your business up process, some sections might be more relevant than others. Again, like not everyone's at level 6, right? I'm hiring, if you're at a certain stage, recommends hiring VP of sales, VP of marketing on that front versus like all the way down to where's it, level 1. See again, and I'm totally like transparently, like Claude is not giving me as like long, robust outputs right now as it was even yesterday for me. And so I'm running this through and I'm seeing that like, okay, like it's not hitting every single thing right to a T. And so again, just going to kind of run it one more time and see if this does the trick. But sometimes that is just the case. And sometimes, some of the lead magnets are a little bit better. And so if you're running this, like, for the cost of what it takes to generate this content and ideate and kind of work through each section of here, to me far outweighs the time that it would take for me to sit through and, do this every single time. And I usually will have a document or like a Google Drive, Google Doc open on the side where I'll take things and I'll be like building the different parts of each run so that I'm saving the information that I want if I want to just rerun it again and again. And it looks like this one's a little bit more robust, but yeah, as you guys are going down this, like we've been doing it pretty much one screen this whole time, but I definitely would recommend having a separate tab open where you're saving the contents that you're coming and creating through here, just so, something doesn't happen weird and wipes out your entire thread, or you want to rerun a generation like this. But you like version 1, okay, save it. Okay, I'm going to retry it. Version 2, save it. Version 3, save it. And then, hey, Claude, take all 3 of these versions and combine them into one and make it better. Like that one way of, expanding on some of the content that we're creating here. But as you can see, this generation, is definitely more robust than some of the other ones we've generated, but it didn't quite make it to like the 7 stages. So I'm going to say just continue if I run down to this issue of Claude stopping before the full iteration is ran. I run into that quite a bit inside of ChatGPT, where I'll give it a very long workflow, and sometimes it'll stop halfway through, and I just have to type continue, and it'll pick things back up where it left off. And so you see here, it stopped at that roadmap to level 1, and so now it picked things back up. Okay, here are the goals that we want to hit for this level 1. Team growth, progression, level 3. Can't tell if you're celebrating something, Ron. You were stuck in this mode for like 10 seconds, and like the Olympic victory lap was about to be had.
Too much too much desk time. But this is great, Darby. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, roadmap level 5. And so, again, like going to 6 and 7, it's talking about setting the stage for, a large acquisition. I'm just going to say continue to see if it wants to finish things off here. But from this stage is where we'll run the last 2 sections of the workflow to generate some more ads that we're going to be testing out on. This next section, what we developed just about a week ago with one of our community members who reached out with a request for a workflow that could help with generating different Facebook ads or for different platforms based on the products that they're doing with their clients. And so, again, as we've talked about with these workflows, is like great building blocks to start from, but then also having the idea, like the end in mind of where you want them to go, is going to help with just refining and fine tuning everything. And so I think we've hit Claude's going kind of back into a little bit of a loop, but back to the executive team, who's let me know if you want any clarification. I'm going to say you're doing good on this one, Claude. Hit the showers, not yet, but almost done here, Claude. Section 6. We're going to build on this a little bit more to some go-to-market ads. Now, this again, like kind of like a nice to have at the end of a workflow like this, or just going at this with your own content brief and saying, I want to create 10 ads really quickly for an audience like this. And then you could keep your buyer's brief. You could keep the content brief that you developed above to help with supporting this. But again, if you are targeting client, offer, campaign, target success metrics, audience, gender, locations, like all of these things that if you can bring them to the table are going to help with the creation of the ad and the dynamics. And so like competitor examples here is a great thing to say, okay, I've got like these 15 different competitor ads that I want to like model and replicate. Like pasting those in here would be a great way to say like, okay, like take an example from these competitors and follow that same framework, whether it's a Facebook ad or like a Twitter post or a thread or wherever you're going to be advertising. I'm just going to copy this here. Go to market ad. I'm going to say fill out the variables based on the context above in the $100 million leads. Unfortunately, Claude, I don't understand you today. It's the real problem. So we do this. Just so we can get to the finish line. All right. My screen is not, oh, that's weird. Okay, I'm going to go back up here. Claude needs a bowl of CBD gummies. That's right, Julie. Okay, sorry, I'm going to give you guys a headache here. My scroller's going off the rocker too, which is, what I really love about technology is it always waits till we're doing a live demonstration in a workshop to start to like not do what it does when it's 3:30 in the morning and I haven't slept in 2 days because I'm just so excited about preparing this workshop for you and everything is going so great. Same balking outputs that happened to me yesterday in ChatGPT demo to a prospect. Yeah, there's a demo detection mode in AI. It's like Stop too many people know about us. All right, so we're kind of getting there. Okay, so I gave it some more information. It's coming back to us with an AI base, end-to-end AI development platform, campaign objective, qualified leads for account executives. Right. So again, like you're going through here, fill out this information as detailed as you can. I got this from someone who's doing this professionally, and this is what they basically said they wanted to provide for context. And in their use case, it's being able to have their team come in and being able to just fill out this information and say like, oh, this is the criteria for a campaign, put it into the AI, and then have it come out with different responses. Right. So kind of like helping with systematizing their whole media process. And so we give it this level of context. That's great. So I'm going to now go back to the rest. And this is basically going to help just kind of like walk through some ideation for Mark said, even with the difficulties, very helpful. I'm glad to hear that you guys are hopefully still finding this helpful, even if Claude is, again, going to be going through this sort of stuff. So again, like I think it's as much as it's kind of frustrating as AI will like be a little more finicky in certain use cases, is that like just troubleshooting how to work around some of the issues that you might run into. Like this could happen to anyone on any given day. And how do we like stop it? Or how do we figure out a workaround that's not going to let it just like totally ruin the workday? Right. And like, are there ways to troubleshoot this? Or maybe, if, we wanted to jump into something like ChatGPT, like maybe ChatGPT would be giving us better examples like in this case. But, again, depending on where you're at in the world, if you don't have access to Claude, ChatGPT might be the option you're using and working through this right now. That's totally cool. It might be getting better outputs on a specific given day. I recommend to everybody, if there's a question of which one is better than the other, like there's not really a which one's better than like the other necessarily. Like there's certain use cases where inside of your workflow, ChatGPT 4 is going to crush like what Claude can do. And like in a lot of cases, I hear people saying like writing and expanding and being a little bit more robust with words is somewhere that ChatGPT tends to be a little bit better than Claude in this case. Okay, here we go. But like for the research type of stuff and providing it a bunch of context and data to pull out, like I found Claude to be very useful. And so for this example, as we continue the conversation moving forward, so it's saying I don't have access to their actual website or brand guidelines document, right? Maybe if we wanted to provide that in its own separate thread, we could do that and have our own content brief. However, here's some sample ad copy based on what I said. And so now we have like ad 1, ad 2, ad 3. If you know your clients are going to be on longer form like Facebook ads and you have some competitors that would model, like this is so critical, guys. If you have 2 or 3 competitors that have a structure of an ad that you find to be really like, I really want to follow what this looks like, give that to the AI and be like, look at what these ads look like. Write ads for me that are in the same framework as that, but are for my product. AI is really good at doing that because you're giving it guidelines to follow, right? And we didn't really give it anything other than like write an ad for like a Facebook blurb. And so it's giving us kind of like, okay, ads. But if I said, okay, now rewrite all these ads with 3 benefit driven bullet points. Like it's going to go back up, write all 3 of the ads with 3 benefit driven bullet points. And so if I could then, again, just how you want the ads to look, it's always so helpful to have that research coming in to the ball game so that you're not just kind of at the whim of AI having a good hair day, or just giving you something that like, if you don't know what you're looking for, you might just say it sounds good. But if you know, like have that visualization of like where you want this thing to end up at the end of the day, with something like this, it'll help, expand on it. And then Now, if I'm like, oh, I really like the structure for an ad, I want to make like 20 more because we're going to throw like $5 a day at each of them with our budget and just test and see which one wins. Like give me 20 more ads in this style with different angles, right? And now you just get creative with how you're working inside of, conversation back with Claude, and, tell it more of what you want to do. It's like, okay, I like all of those ads now. Well, now we need to create, you can just continue the conversation and the thread going around on that front. I see Julie's question, messing around with AI and providing prompts to produce images to go with these ads. I definitely have done that before, where I've asked it, hey, give me like a prompt that could like describe an image that would go with an ad, but not as much like going into one of the image generation softwares and doing it. But I mean, with the rate of where I think DALL-E 2 or 3 now with ChatGPT, DALL-E 3, like you're going to be able to just breeze through image generation with this. And I haven't personally tried it DALL-E 3 yet. So, there's that. But one thing, just some commentary on ChatGPT, just came out with Vision right now that is like analyzing images. So if you have like a swipe file of images for competitor ads or landing pages or anything like that, you can literally ask ChatGPT to be like, hey, analyze like the framework of this, and then take that framework and then have it rewrite content based off of it. It's cool. So you see that just created a bunch of additional sort of ads with it, but probably not the best. It's like, maybe we take it and we run with it, or maybe we don't. But at this stage in the ad testing is, I mean, especially if you're getting a program or an offer out there to launch, and Rachel can speak to this a lot more than I can, is like how critical just like testing, especially if you're going to be like, launching a new offer to product or market. I don't know, Rachel, if you want to talk a little bit about what you'd be looking for.
Yeah. So, I mean, in this context, like what you're seeing where Darby is, what I've done in the past is, if you're trying to figure out, let's say you're trying to conquest like a new segment. Let's say if you're trying to go, like I'm trying to do skincare brand on the side. I don't know if I've ever mentioned any of all of that before, but like, let's say if I'm trying to like think about, let's say makeup versus skincare, if I want to like have different ad variations and test towards that market of one of my new products that are actually is makeup focused, I can like have it to where, okay, I'm going to have some ad sets specific to makeup, specific to people within that, let's say propensity for buying, intent for buying, and then looking into specific demos and psychographics that are aligning to what I have originally within my skincare brand itself. And then testing it with, let's say, a couple $100 towards, those ad sets, whether it be color variation, messaging variation, CTA variation. Those are some things that are very helpful to do. And I think that there's power in utilizing different platforms like such as Facebook, for example, using that method to figure out even if your site is aligned to those people. So it's kind of like take into account like what you can use for ad variations, and also plug it into your site to ensure that offering is always aligned, and going from there. There's multiple ways of going about it, but A/B testing is something that agencies and in-house brands do all the time, and what I've done before in the past. So
yeah, and to build off of that, Rachel, with like the context we're providing it, and if you were to just start a brand new thread in Claude or ChatGPT, and you're going to be writing ads, like you absolutely need to be having it reference context that's true and relevant to your ad. Like, here's the creative brief, here's all of our ad copy, write ads based on this, so that people aren't getting one message and one tone of voice and then they're completely in a different world whenever they land on your website.
And that's why I like Jasper so much in the past, because it was able to like plug all of that in. And like Canva, for example, right, is another tool to talk about and going on for, but like that's another tool that's actually utilizing the brand asset library area to have the tonality and voice and color scheme, aligned to what exactly you're doing consistently, versus like having to plug and play every single thing over and over again, which no one has time for. So, yeah.
Totally. And as we come up to the last section here, we've generated a lot of content, right? And a lot of this and can be valuable in a lot of different ways, depending on where you're at with the launch of your offer, or just starting with researching and ideation of different, things that are making your buyers tick. But at the end of the day, one very powerful lever to pull once you have an offer out there and you have customers coming in is leveraging affiliates. And Alex Hormozi talks about this in a lot more detail than I'm going to get into here on this workshop inside of $100 million leads. But creating an affiliate program where affiliates can easily refer customers back to you is a great way to add an additional sales channel to you that, besides the cost of like an actual affiliate platform, don't actually, it's very cost effective in most cases. Whether you're talking about just creating all the additional assets like copy, swipe files, and images, while that might have had a bigger price tag on it before AI, you can create a lot of these assets very fast and effectively now. And so the last section of this recipe is how you could go about creating at least the bare bone structure for starting an affiliate program related to what you're going to be offering here. And so I'm scrolling up right now because of how Claude is acting today. Campaign ideas. So I'm going to copy my creator brief down here. And I'm going to provide some more context. Because again, context is everything when we're working with AI. And so all I'm doing right now, is it seems I'm scrolling for hours, is I'm going to copy my basic content brief that I provided from the start. And now I have this pre-prompt in place to now gather Section 7 affiliate program brief, act as a marketing strategist for this program. And I'm going to highlight this to, fingers crossed, one last time. Execute a lot of the different elements that you would need to just get started with an affiliate program. And for anyone that doesn't have an affiliate program in their business, they have existing customers already. It's a great channel to open up that can be additional income streams for your business that you only pay whenever sales are made. And so you're not shelling out money for ads necessarily, but you do need to figure out what, see, here we go again, product or service. You do need to know like your margins and what you're capable of giving away in terms of like sales commission or bonuses and things of that nature. I'm going to copy this one more time. Content brief. Scroll back down here. Say program prompt based on content brief. Fingers crossed. Again, one last time. Thinking a little bit more, so I have a feeling. Yep. Okay. So now here we go. A messaging. This is probably something you could use outside of an affiliate program. But affiliate program aims to drive new customers acquisition by leveraging partnerships. Mission to empower partners to share AI base with their audiences and networks, providing value. Built on differentiation, only end-to-end AI platform built for data scientists' needs. Our ideal partners, right? So like we're talking before the buyer's brief, like who is your end buyer here? But now if you're going to be targeting affiliates to work with, that's, there's a reason that companies will either work with like affiliate agencies or people that specialize in affiliate joint ventures and like revenue sharing deals. That you'll see things like an affiliate like channel manager is a full-time job at some companies that do this, and it's like a full-on sales channel that is all about getting your company out there, getting new leads, data science influencers, bloggers. And so you could now take this affiliate like brief that we've just created, make sure that you have the like does a base commission rate of 15% make sense per sale? Is that for life? Is that for 1 year? You know, identifying that up front. Again, knowing your numbers is obviously crucial at all elements of here, but especially if you can't afford to give, like some people, oh, I'll give 50% away for life on my thing. And then that just like ends up hurting you way down the road, especially if you're, you know, again, depending on your business and who you're working with, if you're taking on investors, or is it a SaaS product, or is it e-commerce and your margins are a lot lower? Like, can you afford to give this away versus what would it actually cost you on acquisition side of like spending money on ads to acquire a customer? I think what Alex says in $100 million leads is something around like a third, like a 30% customer acquisition cost, like whatever that your customer acquisition cost is for paid advertising. Like if an affiliate sending you somebody, like a customer, could be paid out, you know, that customer acquisition cost that your target is for your company. But again, go read $100 million leads for like the breakdown on different ways and models to approach it. But this will help with getting some of those core like pieces of information for even just a really, I've set up some affiliate programs for a few different clients in the past. It doesn't need to be like rocket science for this. You just need to lay it out. This is the cookies. This is the commission rate. Minimum payout often is something around like $25 or $50 or $100, depending on the program. And a lot of programs like First Promoter is what we use, just simply like pays out via PayPal and after every 30 days. So, you know, again, marketing materials will provide written assets like this. And so from here, I would say you could say inside of, you know, Claude, it's like take into account the context above for this program and create the following swipe file assets for affiliates to deploy. And like how, if I were to like go and like ask somebody to do this for me, like what would I want to tell them as an instruction to get the best type of response? And like that's how I would approach asking it with Claude. It's like, okay, I need to write 5 email files that are promoting the free trial for my product launch to give to affiliates. Okay, well, here's this initial swipe files, pre-written email templates. Try the only end-to-end. So like, cool. Like most affiliates will take this and then modify it themselves. What I'm seeing right now with affiliate programs, especially ones in the AI space, is they're giving swipe files and then they're saying, here are some prompts to rewrite them inside of ChatGPT to like reposition them in your own voice. And again, like if you have like general context for people to start from, this is going to make it that much easier for an affiliate to want to promote your product in the first place. And it's as easy as asking Claude to help with it. Banners and graphics. Okay, maybe we need to go into Canva and play around with it a little bit, or work with someone on the design side. But you know, ultimately at the end of the day, we're 90 minutes into our journey here, and we've come to the end of this workflow demonstration, going from top to bottom of our AI business growth workflow, starting with the buyer's brief to our $100 million offer, boiling it down into a condensed creative brief to a brand style guide, and then leveraging all of that context to creating our $100 million leads workflow, and then moving that into different levels of ad creation that, again, you could take different competitors that you want to replicate and different platforms that you want to be advertising on, create ads to test as you go to market, and then tying it all together with some affiliates that you can grow your army of people that can refer you customers and only get paid when you get paid. So, you know, at the end of the day, you know, this is a great starting point to have, you know, now in your back pocket as a business owner, an entrepreneur, somebody in the marketing world in some way, shape, or form, to have these different assets to use at your disposal to modify and then to build on. But again, while the content we're generating here is great, it's nothing without actually going out and executing. And so what we're looking at here is condensing the time that it would take us to get this from hours or days or weeks or months or never to now you have some place to start from, so you can be focusing on higher level strategy and execution of said tasks. And if you have team members, you can have them go through this stuff as well. Susie had to hop off. You got the Google document. And then for those of you who are part of the community, two ways that you're going to be able to access this. One is if you bought the one-off ticket workshop for this inside of our AI integration library. Once this recording is done, you will have access to the workshop right here. And then the additional like prompts and resources that we've put together throughout today. And then if you are a part of our AI Growth Library or Gen AI University community membership, you have access to all of this and more, but it will be inside of our marketing workflows section as well. And as a special one-time deal for those of you that are actually here live with us, if anyone would like to work directly with me for 30 minutes to help with implementing what we just walked through here today for your specific workflows, between now and the time we sign off, so 28 minutes on the clock here, if you go to genaiuniversity.com/pricing and go subscribe to an annual account for $4.99 right now, I'll throw in a 30-minute deal, but that's literally only for you guys here live with us and otherwise. So just throwing that out there. Rest of the time, the floor is open, and would love to answer any kind of questions that you guys might have about the workflow. And we can get into any direction that you guys want to go here with us live. But I hope that was useful for you guys all joining us here, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys put that all in action. So how's it going, Bruce?
Good, thanks. So how would you then marry this with some of the John Benson stuff, like mini VSLs and sales page copy? And because I see that as this is more strategic, and that stuff is more tactical, in actual implementation. Is that how you kind of see things also, how they would fit together?
Yeah. And so as Rachel mentioned before, with like the ads that you're putting out there to the sales page you land on, you want all that messaging to be consistent. And so whether it's just keeping the same content brief, like the avatar, niche, primary goal, and then running chat VSL or any of the long form sales letter copy that John produces, you want that to be hitting the same like pain points and the dreams, goals, and all the stuff there. And so one way that I've done it with those templates is I'll take like the buyer's brief and I'll run the buyer's brief and make sure that that's in line with what I want the landing page to look like. And then that buyer's brief will inform the content, but then I just use that as the context that I'm like basically to some degree, not necessarily the whole thing, but if I wanted to include all of these pain points and do this sort of thing, I would just use that as the context at the top and then pre-prompt it with, just have that context above so that it's staying on the same line. And like if you're targeting like a technical executive, a CTO type person running a Fortune 500 company, and then your sales page is targeting like solopreneur, like freelance developers, just those two variations alone is going to produce wildly different types of like copy from one of those longer form sales letters. And so as long as those are in line and stay consistent, I think your messaging is going to be a lot more cohesive and coherent for who you're trying to like target.
And Darby, I think we have a Derek looking for that benefit again. And Derek from Ron, you're looking for a link. I just want to make sure I get to you. Sorry, Derek, if you can like comment in the chat, I can get it for you. Susie's got a question for you.
Susie, I'm working on my website copy today. Any chance you have resources that help me with that? Do you like have some competitors that you're looking to model with your copy? Are you able to come off mute? I'm not sure if you're in a position to do so.
Just need to close my door. Yeah, I'm in a competitive market, and I'm trying. What my goal is to really position myself differently, than and sound different and look different. And so I've done a lot of the foundational work of creating a brand, not just with visuals, but with like a mission and a vision, and you know, and if anybody's interested, there's a really great course taught by Jeffrey Perlman, who started Zumba, and he's like a brand expert, and he's amazing. And he has a great course, Darby, on Mind Valley that I went through. But he also is hired by like huge companies to come in and help them with their everything. So I went through that whole process, and I have a really cool vision that I want to implement, and I think it's going to help me just be more aligned authentically with what my gift is to the world and how I want to show up in the world, but also kind of I'm trying to so this is my struggle, Darby. I'm in a competitive space. I I I use high level software to create automations for my clients, but I have a very different vision and mission overall than just copy paste, get people paying me, and get that monthly recurring revenue. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to not feed that information in, because it's gonna put me in that box. I feel like it's gonna put me in that box. And I've been messing around with AI in my website copy now for a few weeks, and I feel like this might actually be a great place to start. Maybe I go through this workflow. I've done the $100 million offer with it. Maybe I go through the lead and then take that and then move into web copy. That's kind of really what I'm trying to talk through with you, is like, what would you take? How would you approach this from a strategic standpoint without?
So what's the biggest like roadblock that you feel right now is holding you back from putting your website or your offer out right now?
I have like this kind of like more like bigger vision, ethereal kind of like contextual brand, right? That is more speaking to a person. It's creating a transformative brand versus like features and benefits, right? So if you look at a lot of people who are out there selling really anything, they focus on features and benefits. And what I want to say is my brand, my brand frequency is empowered simplicity. Like I want to empower people to live more fulfilling lives and have more time freedom to either reinvest in their business or spend quality time with their family without the stress of the mundane and the repetitive tasks and all the things. And this comes from me being my best avatar, coming from another business where I was literally working myself into the ground. And so I was like, how do I take this vision of now what I've created is this whole brand statement and this brand frequency? And I noticed that like ChatGPT was much more creative in that for me, going through that process, each lesson. So now I want to take all of that and put it into copy that's going to convert and sell, right? Like at the end of the day. So I don't know, am I kind of rambling? I don't know if I'm being very cohesive in my explanations. I don't know, from a strategic standpoint, do I take that brand strategy and put it through this process and then take that and start writing the copy, I guess is my question.
Okay, I can help Darby if you need me to.
Yeah, just give me a second, Rachel.
Sure.
I just have an idea based on what you were saying, Susie, is like how you described what you want to be like is how I would position the content brief, whether you're going through any of the recipes or otherwise that we've created. But like ultimately it's like, who are you going to be serving? Are you doing this for yourself and like purely positioning, or is there like that one person who is struggling with something that like absolutely that you can help them solve a very specific problem? And what is like, who is that and what's the problem? And like, how do you want your messaging to come across to articulate that like you're the person that can help solve their problem? And without testing, then like I don't know what's going to land or what's not. A lot of it's just like theoretical and, oh, like this could work. You could ask questions to ChatGPT till the cows come home and never put something out there that you can start to get feedback from. And so I think like simplicity is going to be really key here, and not putting maybe some super long direct response sales page that's being super hard selly. But when you talk about what you do and who you are and how you want to come across, it seems to me like something that is going to be easier to articulate and connect with somebody that they can resonate with you via video versus just text. So maybe like a simple structure of when someone lands on your page is that they see you and who you are. Welcome, I'm Susie, X, Y, or Z. This is what I do. Share a little bit about your story and your experience and who you help. And then like, what's the benefit of somebody signing up for a free micro course, for example, from you, which might be a really great way. I don't know if you have a way, if you're offering to book people on like a free call. Is it a newsletter that you want people to subscribe to? Like what is your like number one goal of this website to convert someone to?
To get someone on the call.
Is there anything that you want to are setting as like a qualifier before somebody books a call with you?
Well, they need leads coming in, right? Because I'm solving a pain of kind of streamlining that response time. And so they need to have an established lead structure. And, it doesn't matter how much automation I build out for their business if they don't have a sales process, right, on the other end of that. So that would be kind of like my qualifying things. I mean, it doesn't matter how much we increase the speed to lead and increase the communication and authentically showing up for prospects in a way that they feel respected and valued in the moment right away. But if they don't have a way of following up with them and closing them, then it's kind of futile. So I've noticed that. I've learned that the hard way, because I worked really hard with somebody recently who I was sending, and she refused to get on the phone and call her leads. Refused. And I was like, I can't help you. I've worked with you for 4 months now, and you won't pick up a phone and call these leads. So that was an important lesson, right? So yeah, I think I'm too in my head about it.
Yeah, I think it's easy as entrepreneurs and business owners to get, because we're so close to the chest with anything, especially putting an offer out and repositioning and it being our brand, that without testing and getting that again direct response back from whether our copy or a video that we're filming is actually attracting the people that we want, is that we have to put it out there and start to test. And AI gives us the ability to test this stuff a lot faster. And so if you have people on your list right now that you can reach out to who are warmer leads that could be potential fits for it, what is the fastest way that you could qualify them as a lead, right? And then like thinking through the $100 million leads approach of like, hey, this is what I do. You described it to me perfectly a minute or two ago. This is what I do, who I'm doing this for. I'm repositioning my brand. Do you know anyone that might be a good fit for something like this, right? Like, otherwise we can get stuck in the whole, I'm going to create 15 different sales pages and copies and ads and stuff in ChatGPT and hope that it sounds like us in our brand voice, when you look back and maybe 2 weeks have gone by and you haven't actually talked to anyone to do that. And so I don't have all the answers, obviously, and I'm not trying to say that like ever that I would do, but how quickly can you start to get some response back to test and see how you can open up that conversation and get people to connect with you now, and let the people that you're working with that you find are the people that are really actually wanting to work with you, what are they saying and what's really driving them, right? And when someone does book a call, right, asking a question like, hey, just curious, like what was like the main thing that like got you to book a call with me? And what they say to you is going to be a lot more insightful and valuable than guessing at the 15 things that ChatGPT will say to you as to why they did that, right? Because it's generative AI based on a lot of information and data. But like, don't forget that human to human connection that we're looking for here. And then as you get more of that information and you're surveying and you're asking questions with the people that you're working with, then you'll have a lot more context and idea that you can feed into tools like ChatGPT and Claude to help with refining some more messaging that's actually going to align with people that you actually want to work with. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things you said that I feel that were super helpful. One was, you're reminding me to authentically show up to my audience, because I have been in the business world for a while. I have a lot of people I know who own businesses, and I see them struggling with this exact thing, because let's face it, a lot of businesses are stuck in 15 years ago. I have a friend who owns a painting company with $2 million in business and does everything on a dry erase board and like a spreadsheet. So, you know, like I know a lot of people like this. So, I by you giving me permission to kind of show up authentically and say, hey, here's my new offer. Do you know anybody? And just kind of like putting my toe in the water and seeing what people are talking about and receptive to kind of frees me up to show up as like the expert guru. You know, here's my perfectly polished business, that my new thing that I'm doing. So that felt really good to me. And then the other thing that you said, I wrote down, and I can't read my own handwriting because I was writing really fast. Yeah, there was another point I wanted to make that you said. But that I think that's kind of like what I'm struggling with, is it's not so much an industry that I want to target yet, because I don't know which one I'm going to really gravitate towards. I'm more kind of trying to go after a problem, and that I forget if it's vertical or horizontal, niching down when you niche down to a problem, but it's a little bit more of a challenge, and maybe that's what I have to do. I just have to kind of like commit to one niche and see if that works for me, and then maybe move on. Maybe that's what I'm resisting right in this moment.
Yeah, I think action is going to help accelerate a lot of the questions that it's easy to get lost in the train of thought of where could this go. And, you know, again, just because you run the $100 million offer recipe 15 times doesn't mean necessarily that your offer is going to land if it's all like in a bubble, right? So the more conversation and connection you're having with the humans that you want to work with will open up new perspective and new ideas to like who's actually landing with it. And you're going to discover a lot along that same path. And so there's not necessarily one destination that we can just throw a template on and ChatGPT is going to cha-ching $1 million. Rather, it's the journey of getting there and you showing up for the people that you can best support and serve that is going to open up the next steps of the path. And, you know, I think that, you know, the main thing I would suggest in leaving here is going and opening those conversations and, you know, just having an open mind with it. And, you know, you don't have to be the answer for everyone, but if you know the problem that you're really good at solving, then there's a lot of people out there that have that very specific problem. And so if you can get more specific with that problem and define it better than the people that you're talking with can define it, then they will show up as you have more of those conversations to put out there. And Rachel, sorry, I know you had something as well to add on there.
I think that you said everything great, Darby. I think one thing that I wanted to give as like kind of just advice, because I have worked with people who have experienced something similarly, just different problems like that. And I would say there's 3 things I would suggest, and Darby kind of touched on these, but to clarify, like, even if you're addressing a problem with your offering, not every industry has the same customer. I know you know all that, but it's like, if you think about it as the lens of, let's say if you're working with a client and it's the problem, but it's different industry types per each client, not every customer is going to be the same. It could be a different pain problem versus different factors, like outside factors. So I would suggest definitely niching down and testing your offering towards different people and seeing which one has like more likelihood of engagement. And I would say 2 would be also just, it could be an education thing. Like what I've seen before in the past, and I've actually made this mistake myself, is if you are having to explain your offer or your servicing in more than like a paragraph, you might have an issue, because I have noticed that like if you have like, let's say a lot of people following up via email off of your site, be like, hey, can you actually explain your offer a little bit more? Can you explain exactly what your services are and what they entail? That would tell me, and this has happened to me before, it's like, oh, okay, that means people are automatically having questions, and that's probably not allowing them to really understand exactly what you would need from them, as getting information from them, or like calling, for example, right? Like cold calling, that's a lot of manual labor on their part. So that possibly it could be just having the educational factor of like, okay, this is what I need from you, this is what I don't need from you. So just simplifying your messaging on your site just probably would help you a lot, and just noticing small things like that. And if you ever need to survey people, use your Facebook group if you have one, and use your email list. Like that's like the best way to go about it. Use like your top 10 best customers that you have a really good rapport with, and just see what they say. I think that's one of the best things, and that actually just really encourages like community engagement. Try that. Sorry, I had to put my two thoughts because I've seen that before. I get it. So
thanks, Rachel. And it made me think of the challenge we just did last week for the AI app lead magnet, where a lot of that process was just going through like, okay, who is this app going to be for, and how is it going to help qualify and like provide some value up front, but also like filter people into a conversation that you want to be having with somebody. And maybe that's not something that we need to start with you right now, Susie, but if you can go through the process of, as you're talking with these folks and seeing, hey, these are the problems that everyone is coming into. Well, if everyone gives me a little bit of information, then I can help with identifying where they're at in the process and maybe the best resource for them. Maybe it is booking a call with me to work with me directly one-on-one. Maybe it is just this like free mini course that I put together that can help you with where you're at. We've got a lot of resources that we can help with filtering people through and having them kind of self-identify where they're at in the process, that as you get more of that information back from your research and the conversations you're having, that again, like the $100 million leads workflow is like, hey, what would be some good potential lead magnets? And all that means is that like, what would be attractive to the people that could potentially be good fits for us to work with, that is just a no-brainer for them to say, like, get a hand raise, right? And that's all you really want with your website, is for someone to raise their hand so that you can move them on to the next step of what it looks like to ultimately work with you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just writing it down. Okay. Thanks. That was really helpful. I appreciate it.
A pleasure. And we got a couple minutes left here, guys. Got another call to jump on at the top of the hour, and so need to jump off here in just a few minutes. Before we wrap things up, are there any final questions? Love to hear any insights that you guys got from today's workshop. If you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit, like a win that you got from your time with us here today. Love to hear where you guys are at. And let's see. Do appreciate you guys all spending the time with us here today. It was much easier than I thought it would be to go through this. That's great. Is that going through the actual workflow and running it? Is it just to make sure? Okay, cool. That's great. The add component at the end was a great addition. All right. Excellent demo and prompts. Had a chain prompt, but this is much more robust and longer. Nice to see. Yeah, a lot of cool things you can do once you start to stack these different prompts together. For sure. This is great. Thank you. A lot of ideas how to apply some of this. All right, guys. Yeah, thank you for the feedback and showing up with us here live and catching the recording. Do appreciate you all. Yeah, Claude needs a break this weekend. Helpful to see the step-by-step and troubleshooting, because yeah, you guys will we'll get some troubles with Claude and otherwise as we go through here. But yeah, troubleshooting, figuring out what works, what doesn't, and what questions to ask to maybe find some workarounds is always key. And great. Yeah. So as we wrap things up here for this session, we will be doing more of these workshops. And for those of you as part of our community, they are included complimentary with your membership. If you purchase a ticket to this workshop or are watching it somewhere online and want more content like this, more workflows and more recipes that we develop, that is what we do here at Gen AI University. And our AI Growth Library is a great place to start to get these plug and play workflows that you can walk through in similar fashion as you saw today. You can subscribe on our website. All the details are at genaiuniversity.com. And we'd love you have a part as a part of the community. Like I said, we do a lot of these workshops, these events, and we have a community of folks that are on the cutting edge of integrating AI and implementing it into their business. Glad to have you join us. And otherwise, make sure you're subscribed to us on YouTube. That is where we're going to be posting more and more demos and walkthroughs of these different workflows, as well as interviews with members of the community and other AI entrepreneurs and founders that are blazing a trail in the world of AI. So until I see you guys in the community, join us if you are not a member, says Mark, not me. Yeah, would love to have you guys join us in the community. And again, this is our place and our hub for doing all things generative AI, writing, marketing, sales, and education. And our goal at the end of the day is to help keep you on that cutting edge as you apply and implement inside of your business. So until next time, guys, we'll see you on the other side. Keep calm and AI on. Take it easy out there.